Good morning, everybody. So I have made a video showing you how to make medical masks. Hopefully this will help you make your own during this hard time. Everybody please stay safe during the coronavirus. Stay home, stay healthy. Okay, so I've been getting a lot of requests asking how it is that I make my medical masks to donate to local nurses. So I decided the easiest way to do this would be to make a video. So what you're going to need is some fabric. I use 100% cotton fabric and thread. It's because it won't melt if it's autoclaved by a nurse. It doesn't need to be 100% cotton if you're just doing local donations, but it is preferable if you want it to be for medical stuff. So with fabric, you're also going to need some wire. I am using this plastic lined wire. It's more like tinsel lined wire. Since this one is not being made for a nurse, it's just for a local. I'm also using this elastic, which is 3/8 of an inch. Typically with the ones that I make for nurses, you don't want to use this plastic elastic because again, it'll melt. You want to use cotton to make threads, but in this time I'm trying to make it in bulk, so I'll be using elastic. So you're going to need 2 rectangles cut from the fabric, one that's going to be 9.5 by 7 3/4 of an inch. And you can use a pen to directly draw onto the fabric for this pattern because we're going to be cutting quite a bit off, so it's not going to go onto the finished product. And so you'll need 2 rectangles, one that is 9.5 by 7 3/4, and the second one is going to be 8 3/4 by 7 3/4. So we've got our 2 pieces of fabric ready. Now the next thing we need to do is we're going to mark them where we're going to pleat them. So I turn this onto the wrong side of the fabric and I get my grid tool and I line it up on the 7 3/4 edge here. So I'm measuring on the longer side. And we're going to mark the 4th inch mark, the 3rd inch mark, the 2nd inch mark, the 5th, and the 6th. So our center piece is going to be the 4th, and you just slide it over and do the same on the opposite side. Okay, and you're going to do literally the same thing on the other piece. Just make sure your edge is lined up with the 7 3/4 sides. So we're going to go this way. Mark the 4th inch, 3rd inch, 2nd inch, 5th, and 6th. Slide it over. 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 5th, and 6th. Okay, now I'm going to pull out my ironing board and we are going to iron these pleats. So while I'm getting this nice and hot, there is something that I would like to address. If you've been on Facebook or YouTube, you'll see a lot of health professionals speaking out about the cloth masks. Some are positive and some are negative. I want to address the negative just for a moment because a lot of health professionals keep going on about how these are not as effective as the N95. And the point is that we obviously know that they're not. We're just trying to provide some semblance of coverage for nurses, locals, people in need, essential workers at this time because we don't have anything. I've taken quite a bit of time to study and find out what is most effective. I am taking a microbiology class where we had a course on different types of microbes and how they get through surfaces and stuff like that, and that's really made a difference in learning. But I also understand that when we need something so deeply, we can't just sit back and do nothing. So I wanted to do something that would help my local community, and this is what I decided to do. I'm rambling a little bit, but basically I understand that these are not 100% as effective as the other masks. This is just to provide something for those in need at this time. With that being said, I'm now going to show you how to iron the pleats. So we have these 5 lines, and we are going to take this one at the bottom, pinch it, and fold it over to the one in the middle. Take our iron and we iron that nice and flat. And then taking the fabric, pinching it by this line on the top, we fold it down so that it lines up with this one here, and iron that as well. And when you flip it over, it'll look like this. And this is going to be the front of our mask. And now we take our second piece of fabric and we do the same with that as well. So we take our two pieces of fabric on the wrong sides of them. That means where the fold is going to open up like this. And we're going to just put a couple of stitches right here. And on the other side as well, just to hold that pleat in place. And then once those stitches are in place, we're going to open up the fold and we're going to stitch right along this line and then on the other side too. That way the pleat doesn't come undone when we're done stitching. Now these really don't have to be pretty. We're going to be cutting off quite a bit of the fabric when we are done, so don't spend too much time obsessing about what it looks like. Okay, so I've got those couple of stitches in right here. We're going to go to the other side. Okay, so we get this in here. Now we're doing this side. And once we have all those stitches in, we'll have these two stitches here, and this here and here on the front. Look like this in the back. And we repeat this process for the other piece. So once I have my two pieces stitched, I'll take them face to face, so with these pleats facing each other like this, and grab the bottom, which will be the shorter piece, and stitch them together. So once I had stitched the inside, I folded it inside out and stitched it down this way as well. That way it holds together better. We're going to flip this open so that the larger piece is in front of us. And I'm going to take a piece of wire, looks like this, and I'm going to place it right along here, fold over the fabric, and then stitch around it. That way it holds in place. So I set it in my machine like this, put the foot down and do a couple of stitches, backtrack once, and then I put my needle down into the fabric, lift the foot, and rotate it this way, put the foot back down, stitch a couple of stitches, stop, put the needle back in, lift the foot again, rotate the fabric back to how it was before, put the foot back down, and then I hold down my reverse and put a couple of stitches in it. And when I do that, it just makes a little rectangle to hold that wire in place while I'm sewing. So I fold it down like this, and I'm just going to sew along this edge. And once we do that, it's going to look like this, and we're flipping it over and hemming the other edge now. Now I'm going to close both ends and line them up with this, so it's going to look like this. And I'm going to stitch along these sides. That way the mask holds closed. So it's going to look like this. We're going to take our scissors and cut off the excess fabric on these sides. And this is why those stitches didn't matter. So very carefully slicing along this stitch line, because you don't want to cut that. We take off that extra ugly fabric. Now we're going to make the channels for the elastic. Okay, so taking out a little bit more fabric and my tool, we are going to need pieces that are, let's see, 5 inches by 2 inches. So you're going to need 2 pieces of fabric that are 5 inches by 2 inches. So now I have these 2 strips that are 2 by 5 inches, and starting on the wrong side of the fabric, and starting on the back of the mask, we're going to put this strip, line it up like this. That way the edges slightly overlap the fabric, if that makes sense. Like that. And we're going to stitch across here. You're going to do this for both pieces of fabric. And it's going to look like this. So I'm going to pop out my iron again, and we're going to iron these down flat like this first. Flip it over. Then I'm going to roll these edges down like this and iron that down. Okay, so now I've got these little edges all ironed. That'll make them easier to stitch. And at this point we are ready to prepare the elastic. So I take out my elastic and my board, and I cut two 11-inch pieces. Now I've got these two pieces. I'm going to set them aside for a second. First thing I do is just whip a couple of stitches right into these corners so that they stay still while I'm sewing. Doesn't have to be a lot, 2 or 3 is fine. Okay, and at this point I'll take a second to cut off the little extra threads, anything that looks messy or unkept. Now you don't have to do it this way. You can fold it over and make the pocket like this, and then just put a safety pin on the elastic and loop it through. However, I seem to have an incredibly hard time doing it that way. So what I do is I put my elastic in like this, and then fold the fabric over once like this, and then again so that it folds like that, and then I just stitch it in. That way I don't have to fumble with the safety pin, and that way I make sure that it fits in there perfectly with no extra worry about having to rip open the fabric and start all over with the siding. It's just something that I prefer, that I found a little bit easier. If the other method is easier for you, then go ahead and follow that one, but this is the one that I find is best. So then we put our stitches in along this line. And you will find, and then the edge will look like this with the elastic in it. Now the elastic is not secured in there. It's not tied or anything. It's just in there. So do not pull it out. You want it to stay in there. And then taking the two ends, I balloon knot it. Right up against the edges. I don't want to waste too much of my elastic on making a big knot. I tighten it, and then trim off the excess. It won't come undone. Nice tight knot. And then I just slide the elastic so that the knot goes in the fabric. It might bunch up a little bit. Just knead it into there with your fingernail. And there we go. Out of sight, out of mind. And then we do the other side. Same thing all over again. Get our machine ready. Lay the elastic in here nice. Fold the fabric once so that it creates that border, and then again so that it covers it. Hold it down, get our machine ready. Okay, and stitch away. And then you're finished. This is the front, and this is the back. When you pop it out, it'll pop like this so that it better molds around the face, and the wire in the nose piece can pinch. That way it fits a little bit better and closes off those airways and gaps that would lead to air getting through there. You've put the filters in this pocket here, a couple layers of interfacing or the coffee filters, whatever your preference is, but we're done. So this is the front and this is the back. At the top here where you put the wire, it's pinchable so that it'll form around the nose, that way it closes off those gaps to get air in there. And then of course this is the pocket where the filter would go, whether it's interfacing or a couple of coffee filters. I'm going to put this one on and keep it. So it goes on the face like this, and it stretches so it pops. That way it fits the face better. You pinch up the wire so it fits. And we're done. I hope this was helpful for you, and hopefully it'll help you make your own masks. You can always make it for yourself, or if you're doing like me, donating to a local service that is in need of them. People are really in need, so if you can do that, that would be absolutely amazing. But that is all. I love you guys so much, and you have a good day.